All right, you guys, we are back Saturday night. I know some of you all might be watching college football, but me and the brother Awini had to finish up on something we were discussing on Thursday, and that's leadership in Africa, lessons for the youth. We're going to do a part two. We had got cut off early on Thursday, so we just wanted to finish things up, wrap it up, leave no stone unturned, answer questions as well. Like I said, the brother Awini Bamba from Ghana is back on. So Awini, the floor is yours. Let's go ahead and leave off from where we left on Thursday.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dana, and good evening to everybody. Good day to others who are in a different time zone. And I just I want to start off from where we left off the other time, and pretty much this topic, of course, cannot even be exhausted in 2 sessions, because you realize, Dana, that as we were going on, a lot of issues were coming up about the quality of leadership that we have produced in Africa. And I would like to still state the backdrop that Africa has produced good leadership in the past.
Yes.
And we have the potential or the capability of producing good leaders. It's not a lost cause.
Let's ask this question. Let's stick on present day. Which leader present day would you say would be a good example for the youth to follow in Africa?
That's a tough one. I would pick.
That's why I asked the question.
I would pick the Tanzanian president.
Yes. Okay. I agree.
I would pick John Magufuli because he represents new hope and he's come with new ideas. He's plugging the waste, the holes that has been leaking the public purse in Tanzania. He is bringing in new policies, radical policies for reducing waste, and he's putting, for instance, ministers going on foreign missions in basic or economy class, sometimes even first class flights, rather than for them to charter a jet or a flight to go for meetings abroad. He's canceling elaborate state banquets, that were ridiculously expensive, and he's giving that money to hospitals. He's challenging hospitals to get their act together. He went into one hospital, from what I read, and some machines were broken down, and he pretty much told the MD or the administrator of the hospital that if those machines were not fixed in about a week or so, that he would lose his job, and those machines were fixed. He's breathing new air into the Tanzanian economy, and he's also, what I like about his approach is also not buying wholesale into this whole privatization drive that has hit Africa. And governments are being told, you have no business doing business, give it to the private sector. And when people say that, all they mean is we should give it to the West to come and run it in Africa. It doesn't mean, when people say privatization in Africa, all it means is facilitate Western interests to come to Africa and do business. That's all it means. It doesn't mean empower Africans. So he's not necessarily buying into that, and he has exposed that the fact that several companies in Tanzania that were privatized, they were privatized and given to foreign interests, and they couldn't run them. They didn't put the needed capital into them to ensure that they run, and so on. One issue that came up recently was the railways in Tanzania, and there was a debate as to whether it should be private or public owned, and his argument was for the public because, as you know, with infrastructural projects that are huge, are of that scale, like railways or rail lines, they require a huge investment capital. And when the government or the people are not able to do it, if you don't have billionaires in your country to pretty much fund it and benefit from it, then what it means is a foreign interest is going to come in and do that. And, so that is why it's important that the government takes the lead to invest in certain strategic areas, and that will guarantee that the assets are saved for the benefit of the country, and people can gradually come into benefit, not only in terms of job creation, but also in terms of the government being able to reap monetary benefits, to make money from those investments in order to finance social projects. So that is at the crux of the African leadership issue. Is all these leaders we have, they I don't want to accuse them of being short-sighted, but they don't appear to be looking far because they
Right.
are looking at the
I was agreeing with you. Awini, hello.
now. Hello,
Are you there?
hello. I'm
Yeah,
still
go ahead.
live.
Go ahead. We had lost you. Go ahead. We had lost you.
All right. So the real, yeah, yeah, uh yeah. So the real issue about African leadership, and as far as leadership, if we look at the direction, what is the direction that African leaders want Africa to go
Mhm.
right now? We don't see the direction.
Let me ask you this: what about Kagame? If I said his name right, in Rwanda, do you think he's taking Rwanda in a good positive direction?
Yeah, well, yeah. His approach is also good. Like I said, there are several qualities or things, basic things that some leaders can do. And sometimes you need a good team. And to get a good team, the leader has to set an example, and he has to step his foot down and say no to a lot of nonsense and a lot of corruption going on in the system. So I'd give Paul Kagame a thumbs up because he is also looking inside. A lot of the African leaders that I throw my weight behind, they look inside of Africa before looking outside. You see, and they are committed to this. Uh, Problem, however, is the continuity with some of these leaders. For instance, if I'll give you the Tanzanian president John Magufuli says he's not going to run again.
Hmm.
He did his term and it is over. Now, what will happen if a new president comes and he goes the opposite direction?
He's gonna set them back.
You see, yeah, that's the problem. Sometimes we take two steps forward, one step forward, and two steps back as a result of a lack of a long-term plan that is constitutionally enshrined and that people or leaders that come cannot deviate from. That's what we need. And in order to ensure that people do not deviate from these plans, we must have a judiciary that is truly independent and can take leaders on for going in the wrong direction. You see? So that is my worry. You will have some good leaders come along every now and then, but then immediately they step down, or they get kicked out by for some reason. Then the whole project is set back again.
What about leaders who abuse their power? How do you feel about the
Yeah.
ICC international criminal courts getting involved instead of Africans
Yeah.
handling our confronting these leaders.
Well, that's another mistake about Africa is we have a continental body called the AU.
Mm-hmm.
You see, we even have a continental court. We have an AU court. What has led to this is the AU agreed that its members should be trialed by the ICC. It was an agreement. So I don't blame the ICC. Again, majority of my blame goes to, I don't even blame the West for much, because I don't blame myself for what somebody else me. I don't blame that person, especially after I have learned that certain people in the world want resources from Africa and they don't want to pay for them.
Right.
Right? So we agree that this is the situation. Definitely, we would expect that we would confront or come face to face with these people. My question to African leadership is, what is the response of African leadership to all of these, external plots to keep raiding Africa? What is the response? And the response is that African leaders generally, especially leaders of today, have no serious commitment. They have no love for Africa. They have love for themselves, sometimes their extended family, and sometimes their ethnic group. That's as far as it goes.
Right. And
But
then
to have
somebody in the chat room said that Kagame supported the Tutsi, because you mentioned ethnic groups, and as far as African leaders being more loyal to their ethnic for the collective.
Look, yeah, I mean, it's true. It's true. This is a problem because, look, let's be honest about certain things. If you belong to an ethnic group and you see a member of your ethnic group in a powerful position, you feel good.
Right.
Let's be clear about that. Because why do you feel good? Because you see the person as a reflection of yourself doing well. Just like some of us in Africa here, when we see African Americans doing well in America, we feel good. And we portray it as that's us. You see?
Mm-hmm.
So that sense of belonging and oneness has always been there. The problem, however, is to redefine that and expand the family. Because really, beyond the ethnic group, there is still a relationship. We all come from one basic source.
Exactly.
People will try to, and if you go further, then you go to humanity and say all humanity is one. But certain groups of humanity have shown us that, they don't love us. And we have to learn that lesson by now. Now, within the African community,
Awini, you're going in and out, brother. Awini. Awini, you're going in and out. Hello. Awini. Hopefully the brother will be back on soon.
All the way to Ethiopia. I have traced the cultures, and I'm on. Yeah, I'm on.
Okay, go ahead. We had lost for a second. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what I'm trying to say is, people, when they trace their ancestry, they trace it through to the ethnic group that they belong in now, and then they stop there. But I am saying that if you I ask a lot of people here. They say, yeah, well, I come from Ghana, and I ask them, have you had a conversation with old people in your hometown about where they came from? People are like, no. And I'm like, go and ask them. And most of them, we have festivals here that remind us where we came from. Tell you, we don't originally migrated. So my analogy is to challenge people to find out the source and say, so if your people migrated here, where did they migrate from?
Mm.
You see? And as people migrated, they split. And as they split, they lost a lot of some of the commonalities
Right.
among them. And that is the basis for it. So the challenge of Africa now in this regard is to find enough grounds of commonality and to extend the ethnic group to a larger super ethnic group.
Mm.
You see, because if you come within an ethnicity, you find several groups. I'll give you an example.
Go ahead.
You come within the Akan, you come within the Akan ethnicity.
Oh, well, hold
have,
on. So basically, we're Bantu. That's the ethnicity that we all need to unite.
Yeah.
Bantu.
Exactly. And people don't want to relate to this. They want to cling on to their little corner because they feel they have created something unique, which is good. And it's good for our variety. But there is much more benefit in the unity, which we don't want to deal with. You see? So I have learned to see black people, as my people first, and then other people as part of humanity. That is the reality of the situation. You see? And we must begin to see it that way. Because if you have a president who comes from your ethnic group, and the president only feels that he has a special link to this ethnic group, and he must treat them specially and so on, he forgets that other people voted for him as well.
Mm.
You see, to rule the country, not to rule a kingdom. You see, that is why I keep praising Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, the first president of Ghana, because he came from an Akan group called the Nzima. The Nzima people. The Nzima people are found in the southwestern corner of Ghana. It is in that area that you have the oil now. They are the people who is off their coast that you have the oil. And they stretch from the western corner of Ghana. And Nzima is spelled Nzema. Nzima. And Nzima basically means people of the water, people who come from the water, which is very interesting for those of us who study Kemet, and we understand that creation came from Nu, water, and so you find that this man had no such thing known as ethnic pride and discrimination. He developed the country equally based on the unique advantages of the area. He put an industry, and he elevated everybody that deserved to be elevated. You see, this is a shining example. If you go to his hometown now, which is in the western region of Ghana, it's one of the least developed from Nkrumah in the Nzima area, which is a very interesting area, because they have this stilt village. They have a village on water in that area where he comes from. A village and the people live on top of water. You see, which is called Inzulezu. You see, so it's really about looking at these leaders like we were looking for role models. A lot of the leaders that I follow, like Nkrumah and so on, they have already shown the way. We are one people. Whether we want to emphasize our oneness or we want to emphasize our differences, it's up to us. But what I know is, whenever the world looks at us, they look at us as one people.
Exactly.
They don't care
Exactly.
Ashanti or Akan or Wolof or Zulu or whatever. They see a black person. Whether you're black American, you
So
need to even.
what do we need to do to get people on that same page, on our page? Because that's what I tell Africans here. Like when Africans come over here, they don't see you as Ghanaian or Nigerian. They see you as black.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So now what we need to do is to raise the consciousness level. And to raise the consciousness level, we need to teach people their history. Because look, I like listening to a lot of African languages,
Mm-hmm.
you see, because when I listen, I pick up words and I try to, relate these words to languages I know. And there's a lot of relationship, a lot of relationship. I even trace the name, like my name is Baba. I trace it all the way to India. They use it there. I
Mm-hmm.
trace it to Arabia. They use it there.
Right. It means father. It means father.
All over Africa is in use. So now the question is, where did it come from? And you find a lot of, names and words that, they're known across cultures and so on and so forth. The former president of Burkina Faso, Thomas Sankara,
Mm-hmm.
it's not different from what they have. It's only a slight difference. What they have in Mali, a name called Sangare.
Mm-hmm.
The G replaced the K. But we find that in our languages, sometimes we find those replacements, and it's basically the same thing. Sangare and Sankara, all of them are the same. You see, uh, uh, we have names where I come from, Abare, and so on. It's all the same thing. People, you go to Senegal,
Oh, Winnie, we're losing you slightly. Oh, Winnie, when you have to shift over a little bit. We're losing you. Oh man, he's dropping some good information too. I hate when this happens. Oh, Winnie. Awini. Awini, we're losing you, brother. All right, let me do this. People, thank you for. Let me send him a message.
And it's all.
Okay, we had lost you for like a minute, but he cut out. Hold on, let me send him a message. Let me send him an email real quick. But everybody, thank you for hopping on the chat tonight. I know there's a lot to do on a Saturday night, but you guys chose to spend your Saturday night.
I'm on.
Oh, you're on? Okay, all right, go ahead. I was just about to message you. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. So not to divert or digress much, but the basic source, like the question you asked, the basic source of this oneness is to go back, and that's why learning African history is very important.
Mm-hmm.
That's why when you get in touch with, that's why Professor Clark is one of my mentors, and I admire Professor Clark very, very much. And he's the one who put me on this journey, actually, because he approached Africa pure and simple, and he always tried to speak the truth no matter what, you see, about Africa. And this brought him into contact with a lot of great scholars that the Black community has produced, like Sheikh Anta Diop, Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, George Jackson, Dr. Yosef Ben Yochanan, and others. So, it's important that our people learn the history, because when you learn the history, you take away this so-called ethnic pride. It's good to be proud of where you come from, like we are proud of being African. But when you come within the African community, we have to still maintain that and say we are proud as Africans and we're one people. We might have a few differences, but we're one people, and we live in the same, we share boundaries and so on. Therefore, we must have similar interests, you see. And if we are able to teach this, it's a process, but people will get there. I'm very optimistic about this. Is that when people learn their history, they are transformed. They are seriously transformed, because now more than ever, the African identity is a concept that has come to stay, and people are beginning to slowly relate to it. At first, it wasn't there, you see. So getting hold of the African identity is very important, because when we accept our African identity, then we accept that we may come from different areas and so on, but we're still African. And therefore, our thoughts and our outlook must be African. You see? So we can get there through history, and we must keep teaching the history. That's I think it's a right, what people have as rites of passage in other cultures, in Jewish culture, even in African culture, we have rites of passage. It should be expanded, and it can be done through schools like what Dr. Umar Johnson, is trying to do, and other private Pan-African schools that our children go to. They can go to the public schools, but they have to go to these schools to learn their history. You don't expect the public to teach them that. See? So we must have that as a rite of passage, that no African child anywhere in the world should go through or grow up to become an adult without knowing their history. That's very, very, very dangerous and unfortunate. You see, we have.
I just wanted to shift the conversation a little bit. Obviously, have you been keeping up with what's going on in Nigeria?
Yeah, a little bit here and there.
Okay. So the war on terror now is shifting from the Middle East, is going to be headed to Africa per the West. Are African leaders, you think, prepared to face this war on terror? And then also, too, of course, America is going to be imposing their will as far as setting up their bases in these different countries. How do you think Africans and African leaders are going to react to that?
Well, that's what scares me, when I talk about African leadership, because on the larger scale, or on the African scale, it's non-existent. We gave a role to Paul Kagame as far as economic transformations at the AU level is concerned, but I don't think that African leadership as a whole, and I'm talking about the AU, is concerned. Because if they were concerned, you would not have an issue such as Boko Haram in Nigeria raging and plummeting and killing lots of innocent people, abducting a lot of innocent people. You wouldn't have this for several decades, from what I know. And the Union just sits idle. They leave it to Nigeria to deal with. Basically, we have when the Mali crisis came, when
right, I was pretty much there when it was going on, when the French soldiers were there. The first time I went to Mali in 2000 and, I think that was 2013.
Around then, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When that crisis hit, the African Union went and drew up a plan, but they were expecting outside forces, the European Union and so on, to finance the plan.
Right, and the French came.
And then finally the French came.
Right.
So where is the strength of the African Union? It's non-existent. It's non-existent. This is what is very, very sad, because we're sitting in a continent, on a continent that has no protective, systems. We rely on, and as far as bases are concerned, there are already U.S. bases in West Africa. They have one in Senegal.
Well, and Niger. But from my understanding, though, only a few are considered the base in Niger and the base in Djibouti are the only official bases. But of course, I'm sure they have more.
Yeah, but the issue is, without economic independence, African leaders have nothing to say.
Mm-hmm.
And that is why we question whether the allegiance of African leaders is to Africa or to the West. And I favor the latter. And my position is that a lot of African leaders have sold out.
Of course.
And they are sellouts. And you can even tell, they are sending their assets to the West to invest rather than invest in Africa. That speaks a lot. And we need to have a paradigm shift in terms of how we respond to these issues. You see, and in order for this to happen, the consciousness level has to grow. And in order for the consciousness level to grow, we need to learn our history. You see, and if we learn our history, we will understand where we came from and what were the issues and the causes of those problems we had and what we need to be doing today. That's why when Professor Clark said that history is nothing, but history is a clock that we use to tell our political time of the day, he knew what he was saying. Because when you know your history, you know what is required of you today. We need to know what is required of us today. See, and it's very annoying sometimes when you look at what's going on in Africa. You have presidents today buying private jets with state money, flying all over the world, living lavish life, and you have people within their countries, a lot of people within their countries, that don't have basic drinking water.
Right.
That's an irony, and that's something that should not be allowed to happen. Now, what we can do in the short term is to raise the consciousness level, to use platforms like this, and to use our history as a tool of empowering the youth to know the basic things that they should learn about themselves and how it is that they are here now. The fact that I am in Ghana now is a function of history. If my ancestors did not travel into Ghana, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
And if the reasons why my ancestors traveled to Ghana did not happen, they wouldn't travel either. So the present is a function of the past. There's a direct relationship. And so people say, why should we look at
Hey, you're going in and out, bro.
It's the future.
Okay, you're back now. You were going in and out, but you're back now. Go ahead. Awini. Oh, we lost him. All right, guys, he'll be back on. Thank you for being patient with us. I know where Awini is at. The Wi-Fi isn't the strongest, so I appreciate you guys being patient. I see Fam, thank you for again joining us this Saturday night. Awini is back, family. Go ahead, Awini.
Yeah. So now there is no reason why Africa should be rich in resources and yet we are in debt. We are officially in debt. Ghana is under an IMF program, bailout. And this is not the first time. This thing started in the early 80s, 83, and we're still here. So if the leaders seem to know where we're going, why are we in debt? And why, can't we sustain our economies? You see?
Mm-hmm.
So it's very sad to have a continent of such promise that is doing, we're not doing badly. It's totally doomed and so on.
But we could
But
be doing a whole lot better.
we could be doing better. We
But we
could be
ain't
doing
figure
a
out
whole lot better. Now, I hope that the youth, and that's the part about what we can learn, is I hope that the youth don't continue, and I encourage the youth not to continue with, this is very important because there is a transition going on, because these old people, they're going to fade out
Right.
very soon. They are going to fade out, and Africa is going to be presented with an opportunity again to redeem itself. And the youth must be conscious enough in the old-fashioned way and do business as usual. And I know a lot of youth are conscious, at least even if they're not conscious enough, they know what's going on is wrong. They know this because they feel it. They live it. So the youth cannot afford to continue to go the same way that things are going. The rate at which we are depleting our resources and the rate at which we are not diversifying our economies, we are not integrating our economies. There's significant development, for instance, for countries in Africa, especially Nigeria and Ghana, that depend on oil
Mm-hmm.
revenues. There is a development that is taking place in China. It's pushing for electric cars.
Right.
And I
That's
know
everywhere. In fact, in France, gasoline automobiles that use gasoline are going to be banned like in 2030 in France.
exactly. And even in USA, there's a company, Tesla,
Mm-hmm.
that produces electric cars. But I'm just saying that China has taken, it's a big country, and it has taken a huge leap. And that leap is going to set something new in motion. And the economy of the world is going to move in terms of, power supply, is going to change from, being, oriented toward, petroleum to electricity. People will argue that, yes, we still need petroleum to produce electricity. That's true. But there's going to be a significant reduction in the share or the demand for petroleum or for oil.
Right.
You see? So if we have economies that are export oriented, that are raw material oriented, when the world moves away from demand, or the demand for that raw material changes in the world, then we're going to be in deep trouble. You see? So we are going to have to relook at the African economy, and this is a challenge for the youth, because we are going to have to change the direction. It's not happening now, but it's going to come. When Because if you look at the African leaders now, a lot of them are old.
Right. And that's my next question. So in Europe, and I think I forgot the other country. I think the president of France is only like maybe 40 years old. In Canada, the prime minister is like in his mid 40s. Hold on, come here, man. So come here. You know, so
Uh-huh.
age is an issue as far as with African leaders not being progressive.
No, it's not. Because we have a saying in Africa that the older the wiser, but that's not the case now. Uh, People are going to argue that you know, when they leave, they're just going to be replaced by other old people. That's not going to happen. You see, because the voice of the youth is becoming louder. So the world is shifting toward. If you look at Austria, there's a young man running for presidency. He's only about 30 years old, and he's very popular in Austria. You see, and he, represents progress for the youth and so on. And he has an stance.
We're losing
Hello.
you, Awini. Okay, go ahead. You'll go in and
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. So to wrap it up, uh, Africa is going to be presented with new opportunities, and the new opportunity that's going to come sometime soon is going to be about how to pick our leaders and how to hold them accountable. And the youth should not allow things to go the way they have been going, because we need a serious shift in direction into to trade among ourselves, to produce begin to produce basic goods that will become the basis of see. Yeah, so I'll leave, and I'm hoping tomorrow we can do a show again. I didn't want to make this lengthy, but tomorrow we can do a different topic.
Okay. Let me ask you this last question. You mentioned, I guess, in African tradition,
Mm,
that the older the leader, the wiser. I mean, have Africans
mhm.
really benefited from that logic?
No, because it depends on what's in the head of the older person. He may be wise, but his allegiance is not to Africa. That's the problem.
Hmm.
See, so it's about the allegiance. The commitment to Africa is not there.
Okay.
You see, and so it doesn't matter if you're wise and so on. You just have to have the commitment, and it has to
Okay.
show in policies. You see. So, any other questions, real quick,
Let's see. We got
in
any
the chat
questions
room?
in the chat room, you guys? Let's see here. Any questions? No, just a lot of comments primarily. Not too many questions. Um, if there are any questions, shoot, let's. I mean, go ahead and close it out, Weedy. Give people your contact information. Also, I will post the link in the description box to Weenie's GoFundMe. So make sure you guys
Okay,
go and
okay,
support that. In fact, let me put that in the chat right now. Give me 1 second. Um,
okay, okay.
oh, you know what? Since let me ask you this: what since Ghana borders Togo, what's the situation there going on with their leadership?
Yeah, that's it's a sad thing actually. The president, uh, Foreign Yasingbe, is seeking to change the constitution so he can have more terms as president. It's similar to what Blaise Compaoré wanted to do.
Right.
So that's the basic. There's a lot of revolt going on, and the people are basically saying he cannot do that, and now they're calling for him to even step down. Why? Because his father The Kampori family has ruled Togo for close about 60
Oh no, you
years,
said
from
the
what I know.
Kapoor family. So is this Kapoor related to Blaise Kapoor?
Sorry, not the Kampori, the Nyasingbe. Sorry,
Okay.
Nyasingbe. That's the family. His father ruled, and then he died, and his son took over.
Mm-hmm.
And other people are saying that it's more than that. They're saying that Nyasingbe is pushing for French African countries to drop the CFA, the CFA.
Right.
So there may be something to it. Like I said, whenever you see uh, uprising, it's not always the reason you think it is. So there's that other angle that people are saying that it has to do with the fact that Nasingbe is saying that they have to drop the safer. See, so that's another part of it.
Okay. Another question was, do you know the current situation in the Congo or Arabs agitating that? That's from Victor.
In the Congo,
Yeah. Do you know what's going
no, no,
on there, or is that being agitated by Arabs?
no, I'm not privy to that. Honestly, I can't speak on it. But no, I don't. Honestly, I don't believe that Arabs will have a hand in Congo. I stand to be corrected, but I go with my guts and say, the Arabs will have a hand in the issues in Congo.
Okay.
You see, usually, you see what I have learned from history and understanding African politics. Usually, when we see an uprising, we had some of them prior to independence, but usually the person that is leading the uprising is just doing it for his personal gains. That's all it's about. Uh, when they have change of government, things go back usually to the same as usual, and you have just a shift, a change of regime. That's all it is.
Okay. And then,
You see. So
last question. How do we begin to do intercontinental? How do we begin to do intercontinental trade in Africa? That was another question. Last question.
yeah, it depends on what you're trading in right now, and it's an interesting question because right now a lot of the goods that come from America to Ghana and Africa are just finished goods. Mostly electronics and cars and so on. Now, there is a way. I can speak for Ghana. You know, you can start a company. You can open a company over there in America and have a subsidiary here. And you can basically ship stuff over here and sell them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's one way that I know works for sure. Some people are already doing it, especially in the car industry. Uh, People ship cars over here and sell them. People, electronics like laptops and phones, what have you, and sell them. But also the other way, we can send, goods such as if people are already doing the shea butter, um,
Mm-hmm.
you know, goods related to cocoa products, uh, goods related to fabric like the kente and the smock and beads, stuff like that. Uh, uh, Drums and what have you. People open markets. They open a little like in the. I know New York, people have stores where they sell African stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you know, uh, you know, tighten that. It's just a matter of setting up the venture, the enterprise, and making sure it's legally registered. Otherwise, you run into problems and so on. So once you have that, it's not really difficult to find the contacts. All you need is a few trustworthy contacts, and you're in business basically. I have found I sometimes go onto Gumtree, in USA, and so I find a lot of stuff, is way cheaper, especially the finished goods, products, way cheap over there. So people that interest can go in and ship stuff over and make a differential off of that.
Okay, and then I promise, last question, Awini. How do you feel about the situation? Are you familiar with what's going on in Cameroon? Awini.
And that issue, the split that is going on. I personally, I think that the Cameroonian president, I think Paul Biya, is that's his name. I personally don't have trust in his leadership. I've heard a lot of complaints from people I know personally in Cameroon, and it'll be a shame if the country splits. Just like I don't want Nigeria to break up, and so on. But the drive again is just a lack of leadership quality. You see, we need, and you see, if we had taken care of the leadership, have no reason to call for a split. You see, but now they're advocating for the split along language lines because that country is bilingual. Side and they have the English side. You see, so with all due respect to the Cameroonian president, I don't think that the issue has been handled well enough. Basically, a lot of African leaders, they go there and they have no love for Africa. That's just basically it. They have love for themselves and a few people around them. That's all. And they deserve to be treated. And this is the part I'm going to put out. They deserve to be treated badly when they go to Europe and other parts of the country, because people look at them and say, "Yeah, you're still an African. I don't care if you're a president. You're still an African. Look at how your people are living."
Right.
They want to command respect because they say, "I'm the president." So if you're the president, what have you done for your people as president? That's the question.
Right.
People want to hold on to all these titles and didn't do anything. Some of them, they deserve to be treated with disrespect when they go, to other jurisdictions where there's at least some respect for rule of law. So, is that all?
Yeah, that's it, man. Go ahead and close it out, and then hopefully we'll come
Okay.
back on it tomorrow.
Yeah. So thank everybody for listening in. Say hi to the little man, little man disturbing you over there.
Yeah, right.
But well, I want to thank everybody. We hope that we can continue to have these discussions back and forth about Africa and about African people worldwide, basically. And when the time comes, then I think that some of us can meet in person. Dynast is coming over to Ghana. I think it's an opportunity for those of you who can afford it, to take a trip with a brother, and come check it out for yourself. It's not as bad as I painted. I am a bit of a I'm not. I wouldn't say I'm a pessimist, but I'm just a kind of an alarmist because I don't want people to go to sleep on the issues. So that's my role, but it's not as bad as the media portrays it. You see, we're just saying we could do much better. That's all we're saying.
Okay.
You see.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that's all. I have nothing else.
Okay. And then, guys, I posted the GoFundMe link in the chat room, and I also posted in the description box for Brother Awini so he could further his education. Also, I'll post Brother Awini's contact information too, so you guys could reach out to him as well. But as far as I go, please go to search for Huru on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook. Make sure you're following me, liking the pics, sharing information. If you're new to this, to my YouTube page, make sure you like and subscribe and share. No, it's GoFundMe. I put the link in here. In fact, I'll post it again, Mr. Nice Guy, Mr. Nice. I'm not gonna pronounce the rest of it, but go there, and then that's how you can donate to Mr. Awini. Oh, so he already got offline. Goodness. Okay. All right. Well, so yeah, go that way. So, and then also too, make sure you go to searchforhuru.com. Go to dynastymir.com, and then also go to amazon.com, search for the name Dynasty Mir, buy a book. I've written several of them, so please support and buy them. Until next time, I'll be back on tomorrow a couple times. In the morning, in the afternoon, but it'll be sporadic. But I'm definitely coming on again tomorrow. Till next time, Dynasty Mir, the Kapitan Don. Peace.